Hello, everyone. This is another study of Oahspe.com podcast video for YouTube. Copyright for YouTube. Now, and today's subject is Cevorkum, Sub-galactic orbit of solar system, part 3. Now I'm on my page. I'm on studyofoasp.com, extrasolar planets Cevorkum light speed page. And scrolling down, and here I added a plate showing Cevorkum, roadway of solar phalanx, and you can see the solar system is represented as a snake or serpent as it passes through different arc cycles in its orbit, in its subgalactic orbit. And those white dashes represent the dawn of an arc cycle. And if I click on the link there, you see from, see what link that was. I'm going back. That was from oahspestandardedition.com. Clicking on the link, or at least that link is. The other link was from sacredtext.com. This is oahspestandardedition.com, and it shows right there the solar system represented as a snake or great serpent, and right there is the sun representing the head and the planets of the solar system behind it. And it has an undulating wave-like form or motion. And it shows it passing through these white lines representing the dawn of an arc cycle. Right there you have the Spita from the arc of Spita, and then you have the arc of Bon right there. It says Bon, arc of Bon. And then you have the current arc cycle Cosmon right there, which it's entering that current arc cycle that we're in, Cosmon. And so there you have that. And going back and clicking on the other link, sacredtext.com, there is the plate roadway of the solar phalanx, which is another name of the solar system. And there you see the snake or great serpent, which is the solar system. And there are the white lines of the different arc cycles that it passed through in its subgalactic orbit. And this is from the book of Aph, son of Jehovah, pertaining to the submersion of the continent of Wega, afterward called Pan, signifying earth. And this period was commonly called the deluge or flood of waters. And underneath the plate there you see it says, in the ark of Noe, spelled N-O-E, came to me the voice of Jehovah, creator of worlds, saying. So, returning back, so you see that snake represented as the great serpent, as our solar system, is very similar to this snake image that was recorded in the desert sand that I took a picture of. You see its undulating wave-like form, very similar to that snake representing the solar system. And there again is the snake-like motion of the solar system as it goes around the galaxy, the sine wave motion. Now right here, I'm going to click on this video. This YouTube video. And it says here on the video, solar system orbit 226 million years around Milky Way galaxy. And there you can see the solar system, or the sun, represented as that yellow line in the center, and around it are the blue lines of the planets spiraling around it. And there is the solar system traveling through interstellar galactic space. It says here, the sun is like a comet dragging the planets in its wake. Now there's the Milky Way galaxy, and right there you can see that line, that sine wave undulating line is the travel of the solar system. And there you can see the spiral circles, and there you see it right there. And the sun is moving, and these spiral circles are the sub-galactic orbits of Cevorkum. You see, it goes around the galaxy, which everybody's aware of, but they're not aware of these subgalactic orbits, which is Cevorkum. See there? Right there is the sun moving through galactic space with the planets revolving around it. And there you have it. That was a animated picture of Cevorkum and the subgalactic orbit of the solar system as it moves around the Milky Way galaxy. So thanks to djsadu.com for that animation, which gives a clear picture of the subgalactic orbit of Cevorkum, with Polaris, the North Star, being in the center. And there again is another YouTube video, still frames from a YouTube video showing right there the sun and its orbit, right there, and Polaris in its orbit through a region of the galactic space, the region of the galaxy. And you see this shows them moving together as they orbit and move through the galaxy nearby to each other, Polaris and the sun and its orbit, both of them's orbit. And I have a link to that right below it on my website. And scrolling down, scrolling back up, okay, right there is the image of Cevorkum also. And this is from Removing Oahspe's Enigma by Jim Denon, which shows Polaris, the N star, just above the galactic plane. There is the N star, the North Star Polaris, the galactic plane as a dashed line in the center of the sun's orbit, number one. That's called the serpent's orbit, which is a serpent is a snake, and it resembles a snake in its movement. And the sun's orbit, or the solar system's orbit, is numbered 1 right there. In the center is the North Star Polaris. And the other circles represent other solar systems with planets in their orbits. And remember, at the time Oahspe was typed in 1881, and scientists were not aware of other solar systems with planets in orbits. Now, scroll down, And it says right there, Cevorkum, sub-galactic and galactic orbits. This is a diagram or drawing that I did back in probably 2014 or 2015, maybe even 2013, somewhere in that time. And you click on the link. There's the image right there, the smaller image showing those circles right there represent the sub-galactic orbits of the solar system. In the middle is Polaris, and as you see, Polaris is going around the galaxy just as the sun and the solar system is, nearby each other. But the sun and the solar system are making spiral circles around Polaris, and these spiral circles are sub-galactic orbits as they move around in their galactic orbit. And in the center, you have the center of the galaxy, and I have there a line pointing toward the center and black hole with a question mark. And if I click on this, it enlarges. You can see right here, I wrote the sun orbits Polaris as Polaris orbits the galaxy. They both orbit the galaxy alongside of each other, but the sun orbits Polaris in a spiral circular motion, as you were shown earlier in other images and in that animation video. And then I wrote, just as the Earth orbits the sun, as the sun goes around the galaxy. And then here, North Star Polaris, pointing toward the dot there in the center of the solar system's orbits. And I wrote there, the sun moves in a spiral orbit as it goes around the galaxy. And here I write central star of Cevorkum, which represents Polaris, which is the North Star, the center of Cevorkum, which are the sub-galactic orbits of the solar system. Polaris is at the center of the sun's spiral orbit. And then you have the center of galaxy that I have an arrow pointing to. Then I have another arrow pointing toward the center saying black hole with a question mark, because supposedly scientists have found black holes at the center of galaxies. And when you think of a vortex, at the center of every vortex is a vacuum or a hole. And that's what the black hole is at the center of a galaxy, or what it's supposed to be. And so there you have it. Right there, you have these marks around that circle, which is Cevorkum, one of the Cevorkum subgalactic orbits, and each one of those dashes represent 3,000-year arc cycles of Cevorkum, and there's 1,600 of them in each subgalactic orbit. There's 1,600 arc cycles in each Cevorkum or subgalactic orbit. And there again, I have an arrow pointing in the center of the circle or spiral, which is the North Star Polaris, orbits the galaxy. North Star Polaris orbits the galaxy as the sun and the planets orbit the galaxy. And if you look at this line here, which represents Polaris orbit around the galaxy, and this line right here, which represents this sun's orbit around, it's very similar to what I showed you, those images from that YouTube video on my page of the two lines of the sun's orbit around the galaxy and Polarises. They were next to each other, parallel, and that's what you see here. There's the North Star, and then paralleling it there is the sun's orbit. So if that video that that person made, and it seems like, you know, he was an astronomer, or if not a professional, at least an amateur astronomer. And there are many amateur astronomers who make discoveries, astronomical and scientific discoveries, like discoveries of comets. So the fact that he may not be a professional that made that video doesn't diminish the possibility that is scientifically factual, what he made in that video. And this drawing I did is very similar, but just shows it on a larger scale, on a galactic scale, the orbit of the sun and the solar system and the orbit of Polaris, and how they parallel each other. So there you have it. That's one of the drawings that I did, and this relates to Cevorkum and the galaxy. So going back, and that snake-like motion and as I said before, that snake or great serpent is the solar system, which resembles the form and motion of a snake. Just like right there, that green line going around the Milky Way galaxy in a sine wave motion. That's the motion of the solar system, the snake-like motion of the solar system in its sub-galactic orbit, its cyclic movement as it goes around the galaxy. And as I've shown before, that's the animation of that sine wave motion and circular motion at the same time. Now, so there is a scientific basis for the sub-galactic orbit called Cevorkum in Oahspe. I believe it is based on scientific facts and evidence that I've shown you here on my website, studyofoahspe.com. Now going to this other page right here called Prophecy, Pan, Harvest, and DNA of studyofoahspe.com. Scrolling down, there you see the image of the roadway of the solar phalanx and the snake representing the solar system, passing through the white lines, which are the dawn of different arc cycles. And let's see here. And those arc cycles I'll show that right there. There's that same image of the plate roadway of solar phalanx. And that's from Oahspe Standard Edition. Again, there's the snake or serpent, which is the solar system. And those white lines are different arc cycles it passed through, like the arc of Spita right there. Then the arc of Bond, which was the previous arc cycle right there, Bond. And then Cosmon, the arc of Cosmon that we're currently in. And then that was oahspestandardedition.com. And then this link is to sacredtext.com from the Book of Af, which refers to the submersion of the continent of Wega, afterwards called Pan. And this period was commonly called the deluge or flood of waters, called the flood in the Bible. And it says right here in chapter 1, in the time of the world 24,000 years before Cosmon era, the great serpent, solar phalanx or solar system, being in the ark of Noe. See, spelled N-O-E there, in the Etherean heavens. In the Etherean heavens. And there you have again the roadway of the solar phalanx called Cevorkum, as shown before. And there's the white lines that represent the different arc cycles it goes through. And those white lines are similar to the lines or notches I had in my drawing of the galaxy and the sub-galactic orbits. So on one of the sub-galactic orbits, I put the lines representing arc cycles, and that's what you see right there, those white lines. And then right here, you see the curved arch of the sub-galactic orbit called Cevorkum right there, spelled out. And that's plate roadway of the solar phalanx. And right below that, it says, in the ark of Noe came to me the voice of Jehovah, creator of worlds. Ark of Noe. So that was one of these arc cycles that the solar system passed through. An arc, because the arc is a part of a curve, a circle, or an orbit, called an arch or arc. So going back to that page I was on, I wanted to recap that about the plate called roadway of the solar phalanx and tie it in with other things that I've shown you, and with some things it's going to tie in with this page that I'm going back to right there, called Prophecy, Pan, Harvest, and DNA. Right there, scrolling down. There's the image again of the plate roadway of solar phalanx. And I did the recap to tie in with some information I'm getting ready to read, and some things that I showed you before with that drawing I did of the galaxy and the subgalactic orbits called Cevorkum. Now, this was from a former website called edholt.com. And it says here, but as the days of Noe, N-O-E, were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Matthew 24:37. This statement by Jesus is speaking of a promised return in a future time. But as the days of Noe were, this spelling Noe was not an honest mistake by the transcribers of the original canon, and all who read this work think that it is referring to the time of the biblical flood and Noah's ark, saving the God-selected good things. I have only found this spelling of Noe, writes Ed Holt, in one other book that was advertised in Fate magazine back in the 1970s, called Oahspe, copyright 1882. Between pages 98-99 of this book is located a graph called Cevorkum, which illustrates the roadway of the solar phalanx, our sun's solar system, for 25,000 years. Ed Holt here speaks of 25,920 solar astrological cycle, not the same as Cevorkum and Oahspe. At least that's what I thought he was speaking of at the time that I wrote this, but he could be referring to the last 25,000 years before Cosmon and the time of the flood, of the graph that he's referring to called Cevorkum, which I showed you previously. So that could have been what he was referring to instead of this 25,920 solar astrological cycle. So, but, so what the Bible refers to as Noah's Ark, and people believe that Noah's Ark refers to the name of a person, Noah, and the ark to a ship or boat. It's actually referring to an ark cycle called Noe. That's why it was spelled Noe. That made it into the Bible. But the corrupted version, that made it into Matthew 24:37, the Noe, N-O-E. But the corrupted version, Noah's Ark, made it into the Bible. So it was really the time of the ark cycle, Noe. The ark, Noe's Ark, the Ark of Noe, not Noah's Ark. Now going to another page I have here. This page is called Spiritual Message UFOs Etherians, on the studyofOASP.com website, and scrolling down, as you can see, I have a lot of information on these web pages. And I have a lot of web pages on studyofoahspe.com. So I'm still scrolling. Okay, right here. Oahspe Book of Cosmogony and Prophecy, Chapter 1, verse 44. The superstitions of the ancients still cling to philosophers. They seek first to find the causes of things in the sun, or if failing there, or failing therein, turn to the moon, or if failing here, they turn to the stars. Chapter 6, verses 11 and 12 of the Book of Cosmogony and Prophecy. It is equally erroneous to say that the presence of this planet or that throweth an influence on mortals, according to their birth under certain stars. It is this same astrological ignorance. I repeat that again. It is equally erroneous to say that the presence of this planet or that throweth an influence on mortals, according to their birth under certain stars. It is this same astrological ignorance. Man hath ever sought in corporal things for the cause of this and that. He buildeth up certain tables and diagrams, and calleth it science or philosophy. So that is from Oahspe. And then I wrote, the prophetic numbers of Oahspe are based on the factual existence of Agi, nebula, and Dan, vacuum or zero density space, and is not numerology or astrology. Numerology is based on symbolism and not on factual elements or cyclic manifestations. The prophetic numbers of Oahspe are based on Cevorkum, spelled Cvorkum, and also Cevorkum, or the sub-galactic orbit of approximately 4.5 to 4.7 million years, and the passage through Agi and Dan regions in space, not astrology. Astrology is based on the positions of planets and constellations that are millions or trillions of miles away, whose influence, power, or gravitation does not extend to the Earth. Astrology is as false as the belief in gravitation coming from the sun to the Earth or from the Earth to the moon. There can be no energy from any planet reaching our planet because the vortex of that planet does not reach our planet. So there is no influence over our lives. Cevorkum is different from astrology, and the arc cycles and the times of Agi and Dan and their influence on man is different from astrology. So thank you for watching and listening, and stay tuned for another studyofoahspe.com podcast video on YouTube. Thank you.